Welcome back to the Composer Chris Cast. Just checking in real quick today, and this is one I've wanted to do for a couple months now, and work kind of got in the way. Don't you hate that? Don't you just hate it when responsibilities get in the way of stuff that you want to do? Maybe it's just me. But anyway, 2025 marked the 50th anniversary of my favorite movie of all time, Jaws. Jaws came out in the summer of 1975, and as is well known now, changed the way movies are made and marketed and consumed. It created the summer blockbuster, or it was the first movie given that name, summer blockbuster. Having not been around at the time, I'm not exactly sure. I was born in 77, 2 years later, so I'm actually a Star Wars baby in that sense. But I've always loved Jaws. From when I first saw it as a preteen, it's just always resonated, clicked somehow with me. And I'll get into maybe some of the reasons for that later. But first, just a couple of things about the re-release of it. Nothing new was shot. There's no new visual effects added in this re-release, but they did mess with the sound a little bit. And the sound in the original release, is my understanding, it was a mono audio, so no stereo. Everything was one speaker or one channel, I guess is probably more accurate. So with this re-release, the sound is very tastefully, in my opinion, expanded into more of what you expect to hear in a theater now. So there's more surround sound. So there are scenes in the water where you actually hear water in the speakers behind you. So you feel like you're more immersed in the film than you would have felt, perhaps, or at least to the same extent, if you had seen it originally in the theater. So the sound is enhanced in that way. But like I said, very tasteful. Very tasteful. Some of the crunches are a little more crunchy. We'll do with that what you will. Uh, but really enjoyed it. And Spielberg shot it in a time when you couldn't rely on computers to clean up stuff or fix stuff later. So it's just shot so beautifully, and it's shot from an era where you can tell that what the camera can capture is really important and really worth looking at. Seeing it on the big screen, you see things that you just can't catch on a television screen, even the big, fancy schmancy TVs that we have now. Seeing it on the big screen, it was made for that, and it really, I don't know, it showed me that the art of filmmaking that has been so changed by digital technology and digital effects and computers and all that. It's something that's been lost in terms of the art of actually taking a camera out and capturing the world as it is. So I thoroughly enjoyed watching it in the theater again. I think it was the third time I've seen it, but with this re-release, the audio was touched up a little bit, and it had a nice little intro by Steven Spielberg at the beginning, kind of thanking everyone for how the film has stuck around and lived on. And if you've seen interviews with Spielberg over the years, you get the idea, and he hasn't. It's no secret, he hasn't tried to hide it, but it wasn't really a good experience for him making this film. He was in his late 20s, and I'm in my late 40s now, and the idea of being in my late 20s and having the responsibility of a movie like that just blows my mind, how he could have carried all of that. And there's a great documentary that came out about the 50th anniversary of Jaws, where he opens up about the fact that afterwards he did have some emotional, mental baggage that he had to deal with for years. So very fascinating. I highly recommend that documentary as well. But anyway, seeing the film again on the big screen with that glorious John Williams soundtrack and the great performances from those three male actors, it's just wonderful. Just wonderful. Again, loved every second of it. So now I just want to reflect a little bit on why Jaws is my favorite movie and why it's so special, why I keep being drawn back to see it again and again. And lots of reasons. One of them, I think I first saw it with my dad. My mom had no interest in seeing it, and it came out the year my parents got married, and I guess dad had to go see it with his best friend, best man. Mom would not go. In fact, apparently, if I'm remembering this story correctly, Dad came home and started singing the bump, 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 bump theme, and Mom locked him out of the apartment. I believe that is the story. So that's kind of funny. But anyway, so I'm about 10 years old. Jaws is on TV. We just get our first VCR, so we record it. And I remember I watched it on a late Friday night with my dad. Mom was somewhere. I don't know if she was doing something else in the house or going out. I don't remember. So first time I watched it, just me and my dad, and I thought that was kind of cool. That mom doesn't want to see this. This is a movie for just us guys. Yeah. So special connection with watching it with my dad at a real formative point in my life. Like I said, I was 10 years old, so just about to step into the not too far from the teenage years, I guess. And of course, being a musician, even at that age, I loved the music. Everybody knew the music. You could just walk up to someone, dun 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 dun, and they know, shark or uh, something scary is coming or approaching. So it's just the music is just such a part of our cultural lexicon that way. So always drawn to the music. Had a big impact on me and my love and interest of film music, and eventually becoming a composer myself. So every time that I have watched it or had watched it growing up, something new would seem to jump out at me, and not the shark. But something new would jump out, whether it was in terms of story details, but also in terms of the filmmaking itself. And maybe because I watched it so many times, I could catch the actual technical filmmaking aspects more than other stuff I had watched. So one of those things being the fact that the mind's eye drives so much of the movie. And a lot of that is because the shark was not working properly. It was not available. So Spielberg had to get real creative with how he was going to shoot it, and went more in a Hitchcock direction because of that. But that was more out of necessity than an original plan, And I think in general, that when you have restrictions placed on you as an artist, no matter what the medium, your artistic medium is, restrictions force you to, I don't know, they almost activate another level of creativity that you have to find a way to work around some obstruction or work around some difficulty. So I think it really enhances creativity to some extent, and I think that's what happened with Spielberg and Jaws. One example: the opening scene with Chrissy, who goes swimming. When she gets attacked, you do not see the shark. You just see her reactions, including the very terrifying getting pulled around, dragged in the water while she's screaming. But the very first thing you see is if you've ever gone fishing for, like little bluegills or bluegills or tommy cods, or, something like, just going out to the pond. You put a worm on the hook, you throw a bobber on the hook, and when you get a bite, you see the bobber kind of just bounce up and down a little bit, doink, 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 and then wham, it gets pulled under. That's what happens to Chrissy in the first scene. I don't know if Spielberg was thinking of that, but she looks like a bobber. She's little tug, and then wham, pulled down. And that's terrifying. It's quite scary, and because you can't see what's happening, it's even more scary, I think. And we don't even see any of the shark until I think just around the halfway point in the estuary when we first see the fin. That's the first actual glimpse of the shark that we see in the whole movie. So you're scared out of your seat by what you don't see and the music, what you hear, because you hear you see the camera moving underwater, and you hear the low strings, boom, 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 and you know, oh no, and so that's what creates the terror for the first half of the movie. Just remarkable, and again, for that to come out of the necessity of not having the shark to work properly, so you could film it for these scenes. It just worked out for the better. And I think the payoff of when you do finally start to see the shark more and more towards the end of the film, that payoff is so great because you've created this image in your mind of, oh my goodness, what is this thing? What does it look like? How big is it? And then you finally see it with the three guys on the boat when Hooper, awestruck, says that's a 20-footer, and Quint corrects him, 25, 3 tons of them. Okay, like I said, I wanted this to be short, so I'm going to wrap it up now with just 3 more thoughts about the film. Number 1, it's really one of the first movies where I started noticing camera work. Now, I'm not a photographer of any kind or cinematographer, so I don't really know what I'm talking about here. I just know that visually, Jaws has caught my eye because of some of the ways that shots are set up. So Spielberg uses the whole screen, which again on the big screen is just glorious. And there's a deep focus lens used, and I don't know if it's for the whole film or most of the film, but deep focus allows you to see things into the background without things in front going out of focus. So not all filmmakers or cinematographers have used it. It was really famously used in Citizen Kane. So Spielberg uses a lot of deep focus lens use in Jaws, and the shots and the markings are very intentional and executed by the camera work and the actors. And I started noticing how there are a lot of shots in the film that have 3 layers or 3 levels to it. So you have maybe a character in the foreground, character in the background, and a character in the middle ground. I noticed this in the scene where Brody and Hooper go to see Quint to talk about going out on the boat, and there's scenes where the 3 guys are stacked in 3 levels, and they're all in focus. One's in the front left, one's in the middle, one's in the back right of the screen. So a lot of that stuff. Another one is when the mayor confronts Brody on the ferry from one side of the island to the other, when he's trying to tell him or ask him about closing the beaches, and if you yell Barracuda, everybody says, huh, what? But that scene, all the actors are spaced and stacked in that front, middle, and background shot. And so there's lots of stuff like that all throughout the film, and it caught my eye the way other camera work in other films hadn't, and still hasn't, I think. Second, the 3 main characters, Brody, Hooper, and Quint, fantastic characters. All 3 actors did a magnificent job in really nailing these characters. And man, in a lot of movies today, you don't always get one good character, let alone 3. But the way they interact with each other on the boat, and when they're comparing scars, and Quint's telling the Indianapolis story, just fantastic characters. And Martin Brody, he is one of my favorite movie characters in any film. Roy Scheider plays very believable but overwhelmed police chief, trying to do the right thing, but constantly bumping up against what the mayor and the townspeople, the island business owners want in regards to the beaches. Brody's trying to protect people, keep the beaches closed, got to take care of it. He's thinking like a police officer, protect the people. And this dovetails into the third thing about the film, is that when I realized that Jaws, or when it became a great movie to me, was when I realized it wasn't about the shark eating people. And I guess I was a teenager, probably in high school, when this finally clicked, but that's not what it's about. That's just the vehicle to tell the real story about the economic struggle or potential economic struggle of the island. You got the reality that these business owners on the island and the residents, they need people to come to Amity Island in the summer for the very existence of the people that live there. And the mayor even alludes to it. Amity is a summer town. We need summer dollars. So that's a very, very real issue there. And then that juxtaposed against that is Martin Brody trying to protect people from a danger to the community. And this really hits home when Alex Kittner's mother comes up to him and slaps him and says, "You knew there was a danger, but you let people go swimming anyway." And realizing that that's the real tension of the film, and it's not really about the shark. The shark is just the MacGuffin, if you will, to drive the rest of the story, the real story of the film. And I will leave it at that. I will honor my promise to keep this short. So thanks for listening to my little reflection there on Jaws and its 50th anniversary. If it's streaming somewhere, you can find it, or find it on DVD, or whatever, however you watch films at home now. I highly recommend it, even if you've seen it before, even if you've got every line memorized. It's just a great watch. And when I try to find movies now that I want to go see, and very little seems interesting, and there's just so much now between all the streaming services. They're all putting new content out, so it's almost overwhelming to try to find something to watch. So it's every once in a while nice to just cuddle up with a classic. Cuddle up with Jaws, you know? So let me know if you saw it. You can leave a comment wherever you're listening, or send me a message wherever you're hearing this podcast. Love to hear your thoughts on Jaws, this re-release. And if you agree with me that it's a great and important American film, and that it's stuck around for 50 years, and it'll probably stick around for another 50 for good reason. Until next time, friends, thanks so much for listening to the Composer Chris Cast. Talk to you again soon.